Hello, and welcome back to our podcast series, A Day in the Life of an Ethical Hacker. Today, we have a great interview for you. Joining Synack's Tice Harrison is Nate Smith. Nate is one of our US-based Red Team members and has been with Synack for just over 3 months. For those new listeners not familiar with Synack, Synack is the most trusted, crowdsourced security platform delivering comprehensive and continuous penetration testing. Synack combines the world's most skilled and trusted ethical hackers with AI-enabled technology to create a scalable, effective security solution. We hope you enjoy the interview. Over to you, Tice.
Thanks, Michelle. Nate, wonderful to have you on the series. Thanks for joining us. Usually a good place for us to start is a bit of background information on yourself. And would you like telling us a bit on that and where you're from?
Yeah, for sure. I'm from the Western United States. A bit about me is I don't do bug bounty full time. Currently, I have a full-time job where I do some application security. And then I do bug bounty at night. I have a small little one. And a little more about kind of how I got into, I guess, bug bounty itself is a little bit of a story. I was working for a software company and they didn't really have a security team at the time. It was kind of having a dedicated security person was something new. And so I kind of volunteered for the role to kind of get into security, and we had some people submitting some bugs to us, customers saying, hey, we found a potential vulnerability, and I kind of headed up working between support and our developers, and started really enjoying that. And so I, went to my bosses and said, hey, you know what? I want to take this OSCP certification. And so I got into that, and from there it was just kind of always trying to hack on the platforms of my current companies, and I really enjoyed that to the point where I started looking at some other bug bounty platforms, and I always thought, I saw lots of people talking about Synack and what they were, and I was like, I'm not quite good enough yet. I need to hold out, and I finally just said, you know what, let's do it. Especially during this pandemic, it's going to give me time to dedicate and try, and I feel like I've really been able to enjoy that time.
That's really cool. And so you built up experience in hacking first, and then what was it that initially drew you to Synack's platform specifically? You mentioned that you didn't feel you were good enough at the time. Is there sort of a certain level you felt you needed to be at to join the platform, or was that something you recognized from other peers?
I think from other peers. I think, some of the guys I knew that were on Synack's platform were quite intelligent and very good at hacking certain, even certain aspects of hacking, whether that was SQL injections or they're really good at cross-site scripting. And so I knew their level, and I was like, well, if they're in it, it might take a little bit before I can get to a point where I can get into it. But then the more I notice is, Synack, the more I've talked to different guys through the community, the Synack Slack and stuff like that, I've realized, everybody is at different levels. So it really was kind of just more kind of my own misconception about Synack, that you had to be at a certain level.
And so now that you're on the platform and you've been with us since April of this year, I believe, how important has the SRT community been in your getting started and staying motivated and engaged in the Synack platform?
Yeah, honestly, you guys have some really good people that work in the community. I know Ryan Rutan, he does an amazing job about helping us Red Team guys for Synack keep motivated. He also is very good about giving feedback to you. I've been on other platforms and not necessarily received the feedback that I've gotten from Ryan. And also, there's been things like, I haven't been on Synack that long. I think it's just been maybe a little bit over 3 months, and I've already been able to be SRT of the month. And so
nice.
It shows that, Ryan and those guys on the community team are paying attention, even to the guys that are fairly new to the platform, and they give you that feedback and they let you know, you're doing a good job, and they'd like to invite you to these other programs and help you to be able to hack and get more opportunities to earn more money or earn more notoriety or whatever it is. And it just helps you as a researcher thinking, knowing that the platform isn't seeing you as a way to earn money, but they're actually seeing you as a person. And that's kind of how Synack seems to be.
And that's one thing which I really want to have our listeners understand is, that we do want our researchers to be seen more as people, not just, sitting behind the laptop in a dark room, the stereotypical idea of a hacker. And you hack almost exclusively for Synack nowadays. Why is that?
Yeah, when I compare it to the other platforms that I've been on, I like the exclusivity that Synack offers. I like the security that Synack offers. We have to connect into a VPN to be able to even see target information. I think it kind of gives you that ability to know that, hey, there's a level of trust that they have within you to be able to hack on certain targets. And I really enjoy that. I like the platform structure itself. There's gonna be times where you're finding all sorts of bugs, but there's times where you're not. And Synack has missions that you can grab and still be able to add value to a customer, even though you may not be finding bugs for that customer within their code. I think they're trying to find ways to constantly engage your red team members and be able to use the skills that they have, because a lot of us are full-time pen testers. Like I said, I work in application security.
Yeah.
And that kind of, for the organization I'm in, we have 20 plus web applications to where, I'm probably hacking on a different web application every other week. So my skills compared to somebody else, they may, be doing network pen testing or whatever it is, but it just allows us to be able to use those skills to benefit the customers and benefit Synack.
That's great to hear. And so how does a typical day researching on our platform look like for you specifically?
Yeah, so I do have a little one. He's 3 years old. And I work full time. So this is just kind of a part-time thing for me to do bug bounty with Synack. And so first, I don't start until later at night. Our son usually goes down to bed at a decent hour. So by about 8 o'clock at night, I'm starting to hack on Synack. I do have a machine I've dedicated just to doing bug bounty research. And since I'm kind of, more or less exclusively hacking on Synack right now, it's really kind of dedicated just to hacking with Synack and doing research and storing any sort of scripts or tools that I find that would be of use for Synack on it. And then I'll spend, a few different hours. If there's a new target, I start looking at that, start playing around with that, start enumerating the target, trying to make sure I have a better understanding of it. But yeah, so it's just kind of, because Synack's always launching new targets, always trying to find the right target to test on that night. Spend 3 or 4 hours hacking on the target that night and then calling it a day, so I can still get up and do my normal 9-to-5 job. So.
And as you have a machine dedicated just for Synack stuff, and this will help you obviously automate your process and maximize your researching hours. Have you noticed during the pandemic period recently that you've been able to stay efficient and stay active on the platform? Have you noticed a change in your setup, or just tried to keep it all the same?
Even during the pandemic, I think it's kind of the same, because I think with the current role I have and within the organization, they allow a lot of leniency. So, I have some scripts and things and ways that I go about testing the applications, and it allows me to also do kind of some research there to then kind of migrate that over to my machine that I dedicated just for bug bounty. So, yeah, I'd say there's not probably more efficiency. I try to be as efficient as I can.
Yes.
Maybe if I, took a snapshot from before the pandemic to after, yeah, you could probably say there's been a little more efficiency, but I guess when you're doing it on a daily basis, it just kind of seems like the same, if that makes
just
sense.
a work in progress almost.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that trust is an important notion when it comes to companies working with Synack and your reasons for working with Synack. Do you have any specific targets that you like to work on?
Yeah. I really enjoy with Synack, and I've noticed, different targets do different things, but I like some of the targets that allow you to get that credentialed access. They allow for that authenticated testing, which kind of, in my mind, kind of gives them the full view of how secure they are. I'm not knocking on those targets that don't allow authentication into their application, but with the authentication, you're not only able to test unauthenticated, but you're also getting into the thick of their application. You're able to test it completely, and the client can walk away knowing that their application, based on the researches and the level of skill that Synack has, is pretty secure. If they're able to get, 20, 30 bugs, they can know, hey, if we fix these bugs that we got through Synack, we've allowed them to authenticate, we've allowed them to do whatever they wanted on our application, so we can have a pretty good assurance that, hey, we can get to a really much better point, a much, I guess, more secure platform based on this test that we engage with Synack. Whereas when you're not doing the authentication and you're going on unauthenticated, you're only getting so much. So it could be the client has a lot of their stuff is unauthenticated, and it makes sense. But a lot of the times it's like you're getting a quarter of the application when you're testing unauthenticated. All of the juicy bits of the application are behind a login portal. So,
and with the notion of when companies work with, how important do you think it is that, once they start and obviously get more comfortable widening their scope of testing, but also building that trust, and then how important is it to increase access for researchers on assets, and really let them find the vulnerabilities that are out there?
I think, and I've had organizations where we've had penetration test perform. It's a little different than the crowd concept, but it's kind of an uneasy feeling knowing people are kind of digging through your private space. You wouldn't really invite somebody into your house and say, hey, open my fridge, make your own sandwich, do whatever you want.
Sure.
It kind of makes you a little nervous. So I get that from companies, but I think as you see the quality of hackers within Synack, and you see that all they are trying to do, is make you more secure, that they're trying to help you get to a better place, then I think that can kind of help build that trust that, this is not a me versus them, it's a me with them type concept, where we're trying to all get to a better place so that we can all have that more secure, that more comfortable feeling. Because I know just on the little bit of testing and targets I've been on with Synack, I've noticed companies that I use or organizations that I'm familiar with, and I enjoy getting onto those because then I know, my data is being secured. Finding a bug inside of there means that I can have that much more confidence in using an application from that client, or the ones that I currently use, knowing that, hey, my data is a little more secure because I was willing to spend some time digging into this application. They're dedicating that time and investing that time to be able to be as good as they can within that space. And when you use the crowd, you don't have to pay somebody $100,000 salary. Instead, you're able to work with a company that has some trusted hackers to attack your application, and you can know that, hey, you know what, they have a wide array of people within their organization that have a lot of different skills, and they're able to get people that are really good at remote code execution, people that are good at SQL injection, people that are good at cross-site scripting. So you have, in 50, 100, 150 people attacking your application. Now, in a normal budget, you wouldn't be able to afford these guys. But with Synack, you're able to get these guys that are super smart, really good in their field, and they're attacking an application, and you can walk away from that knowing, hey, I use the crowd of these guys that, you know, have notoriety for what they do. They're also not, and they get that notoriety because they're good at what they do, and they've tested my application and they only found this, so I can have that assurance again, you know.
And they really are specialists in their field, right? I mean, you have different hackers have really specific skill sets, and making use of more than one of those people without having to hire them full time, I think is really, exactly like you said, it's something which companies are becoming more used to and open to, which is great.
Yeah.
You've now gone into how you became an SRT member, but what motivates you to keep going with Synack, and where do you see yourself in a few years down the road? Is there any specific goals you want to achieve as an SRT member?
You know, Synack has a variety of things to keep you engaged. Like they have their recognition platform. You know, I want to, I came in a little late for this year's, but this next year I want to be able to qualify for the recognition platform. I think that's, you know, short-term goal for the next year. I also think I look at some of the veteran bug hunters within Synack, and I kind of want to get to a point where I get more efficient. I'm able to dig in and find some of those more critical bugs and some of those things where it's kind of a norm and not so much outlier. So I think in the next, you know, 2 to 3 years, I want to get to that point. And I think, you know, it could even get to the point in the next 3 to 5 years where I'm doing it full time and just dedicating, instead of working full time and doing part time, just doing a full time bug bounty and making my living and providing for my family that way.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that people want to go full time on the platform, and I guess if it works out, you have your own hours that you prefer, you can make more money on it, you can provide for your family, like you said, why not do it? That's great to hear. And I think a good way to finish it off would be to ask you, what, if any, advice would you give to future aspiring SRT members?
You know, honestly, I'd say just jump in, you know, take a risk, go for it. You know, we're all uncomfortable when we first start, but just jump in. I think when you're looking at an application and you see there's been a variety of different bugs found within that application, those guys look at the application a certain way. I know I've gone to some of the applications that haven't seen bugs in 3, 4, 5 months, and then I've been able to find bugs within their platform because I see that application in a whole different way than somebody else does. And so we all have that unique perspective. And I'd say, you know, if you're an aspiring member, you know, put in the time, apply for Synack. If you're not ready now, keep going, and come back and get onto Synack's platform and just go. There's bugs there. There's bugs to be found. And, you know, the community, not just the guys that work for Synack directly, but the community itself, they're very willing to help. They're willing to point you in the right direction. If you find something and you're not sure how to take it to the next level or get more impact out of it, I've had multiple times where I've seen people just say, hey, you know what, you could do this or this, and it helped that person get a bug. And they're doing it because they just want to help and they want to kind of help that community or that sense of community grow.
It's nice that you feel part of a wider sort of teamwork effort, although obviously you want to submit your own bugs. And actually, lastly, what advice would you give to information security teams and leaders who are hesitant to work with the crowd?
Yeah, if I were them, I would, you know, I'd just say, I think it is scary to work with people that you don't necessarily know. But I think if you're talking with a platform like Synack, it comes from a place of trust. The things they do to vet their researchers and to continue to vet them are ways that, you know, when you're working with Synack, they're coming from a trusted place. And I think, you know, also they're not in this against you, they're in this with you. So they're not going to hold it over your heads if they find a bug. What they want to do is say, hey, we found this bug, let's get this fixed together. They're here so that you can get better, you can get more secure. So in the end, I think we leave with a sense of more security for the internet in general and those applications that we're able to work on in general.
Absolutely agree. Nate, thank you so much for joining this week's podcast interview. It's been great to meet you, and I look forward to speaking with you next time. Is there anything else you would like to add before we finish?
I don't think so, and I do appreciate you guys inviting me to be on the podcast as well.
Great. Thanks very much, Nate. Look forward to speaking with you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.